Overall, it's a down day in the markets today. Is there anything that is specifically driving this price action right now? Let's talk a little bit about that, kind of my approach as of this point in time. So we could talk about how that goes. In addition to that, I want to talk about Bittrex delisting some cryptocurrencies, one which is actually pretty big, BitShares. So Bittrex is delisting a number of cryptocurrencies in the next 10 days, how that's affected the price action on those cryptocurrencies, as well as what this might mean for future cryptos, kind of an investment thesis there, so that I've had for quite a bit of time. So let's hop into that today. If you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. My name is Rob from Crypto Bobby. I do daily recorded videos on the subject of cryptocurrency, as well as crypto happy hours, where I just get a chance to talk, shoot the shit with you guys, talk a little bit about what I'm feeling in the marketplace, and go from there. So within the past 24 hours or so, the vast majority of the market is down. Not an incredibly large amount if we're looking at crypto, and if we're looking at how crypto particularly functions. Seeing Bitcoin down 2.5%, seeing Ethereum down less than 1%. Really not major market movements, but some of, typically when Bitcoin is down a few percentage points, a lot of the altcoins are down, 1 to 1.5x of what Bitcoin might be down. So we can see here, Litecoin down 3.5%, Neo down after some nice movements recently. Neo down close to 10% on the day, IOTA down 9%. So a lot of these cryptos that have had some pretty nice movements in the past few days have taken a bit of a hit. And when we are looking at the charts, a lot of what you might be seeing right now, it doesn't look super great if we're being honest. Bitcoin went up and pushed close to $4,500 on the 2nd of October, and has since taken a pretty decent size fall back to below $4,300 and is kind of hovering in that range. If you're looking at the charts, there really isn't any type of, at least in my mind, there's nothing that I've seen right now from a news perspective that's really driving this price point, or that's really driving this price action. A lot of what you might be getting a feeling on is from technical analysis guys and traders as far as what they're seeing in the market, but there isn't necessarily any specific positive or negative news that's really driving this market one way or another that I've seen. The majority of things that have come out in the past probably 24 to 48 hours has actually been pretty good news. So to see the market going down, probably more on a trading basis and on a charting type basis, I guess, in my opinion, than this really being something that is fundamentally driven by some type of news story, or Jamie Dimon saying one thing, or China doing something else. At least from what I can gather and in the research that I've conducted, unless you guys have opinions otherwise, and if you do, I'd love to hear them. But I don't see anything that is driving the market one way or another. So, when we go to look at that, typically when that happens, I really rely on a lot of, since I am not a technical analysis mastermind by any stretch, I'll usually go to take a look at what a lot of folks are saying in the space. And this is an interesting chart again from Tuur Demeester, as well as Peter Brandt, who is a guy who's been doing charting analysis technical analysis for a number of years. And according to what a lot of people have said, I've seen multiple channels from a trading perspective. I've seen different support lines. Right now, it looks like we are testing this support line, and testing this trend line. And if we do go underneath, that might be the end of support, and we might see a significant or a decent size fall back to $4,000, maybe a little bit below $4,000. So from that standpoint, that's kind of what I've been looking at, is trying to gather and see what these different technical analysis people are saying, because right now, at least, there's not necessarily, in my opinion, there's not necessarily news driving this. So it might be more of the chat. This might be a better time to be strictly looking at the charts and taking out some of the human emotion and looking at these charts to determine what the right moves may or may not be. Now, as I'm continuing to do this, and as I'm looking at this, like I said, I could put Tuur's link to, and Peter Brandt's link to these charts in the YouTube description, so you can take a look at that and you could check that out. But here's another, not a super high def picture, unfortunately, but here's another thing from a charting perspective of how Bitcoin is going to be coming through on this, basically on this pattern, and where if it's really going to significantly break to the upside or the downside, and it's looking to get kind of shorter and shorter, and get a little bit more coiled there. So I think we're in for, it sounds stupid to say, but I think we're either, from what a lot of the TA guys are saying, we're either about to kind of rocket up to new all-time highs, or we're really about to, take a deep dive off a cliff. So you might want to put in a plan of action. At least in my opinion, you might want to just prepare for, if you have a bunch of Bitcoin, if you have a bunch of cryptocurrency, if this is going to break to the downside, if we're going to come out of this pattern, hit the end of it, and break to the downside, what do you want to have in place? Do you want to have some stop loss sell orders in place? Do you want to take some money off the table? Or are you really carefully examining this, so if it breaks to the upside, you're ready to buy maybe some limit buy orders on the upside? So that's kind of what I'm looking at. I don't necessarily have a thorough plan in place yet, but I'm trying to determine what the best way is going to be forward if and when that we break to the downside out of some of these patterns. If we break through that support line heading downwards, then I think you might want to have just a plan in place. So that's kind of some of the collective thought process that I'm hearing from a couple different people within the industry, and again to Twitter, and there's a number of other great places that you can just go just to get some overall, not only just market sentiment, but even just general trading and charting kind of advice, or what people are drawing out from a pattern perspective. So always interesting to see there. Now, outside of that, since there's really not a ton of market news to be, since there's not a ton of market news today that is driving the price, I don't want to sit here and talk too much about why it's going to go up or why it's going to go down. I think there's probably some better people out there, quite frankly, that if you're looking specifically at technical analysis trading advice, that could provide that to you. But there is one really interesting thing going on right now, and I think you're going to continue to see this develop. You're going to continue to see this evolve in the space, and I've talked about it quite a bit previously, and it is Bittrex and companies like Poloniex and Bittrex, centralized exchanges that are going to be getting increasing heat from regulatory agencies. And you can see here at the bottom, there's a market notice. There's a number of, at this point in time, there are 4 different, they have BTS listed twice, but there are 4 different cryptocurrencies that are being delisted from Bittrex, meaning that they are currently trading on Bittrex and will no longer be able to be traded on Bittrex in the future after October 13th. So that's not a great thing when that happens. That's actually not a good thing at all if you're holding those cryptocurrencies. But let's talk about why that's happening and kind of my thesis here, and hopefully give you some insight as far as things go. So first of all, I know there's a big push now for decentralized exchanges. That's what everybody and their mom wants to talk about, is decentralized exchanges. Now, decentralized exchanges are a fantastic idea. I like decentralized exchanges. I use EtherDelta a little bit, but let's go over to EtherDelta and look at some of the problem. So, I'm in EtherDelta right now. You can see this is loading. Takes a little bit of time typically to load, usually, just with the way the system is set up, literally running on the way EtherDelta is set up and how it's constructed. So, with that being said, this is in some cases problem number one for EtherDelta. Now, I'll click on the Manetha, because I have a few Manetha sitting in my smart contract there. But the problem in a lot of cases with the decentralized exchange right now is that the majority of them, at least currently, are really not even functional. There's a lot of kind of pie in the sky decentralized exchanges, and EtherDelta is really one of the major ones that's functioning. And for a lot of people, it can be confusing to have the concept of a wallet, and then you have your Ethereum wallet, you have your ERC20 token wallets, and then you have to transfer something into a smart contract, and then you have to go in and you have to set an order, or you have to click to sell it at a certain amount. It's just a little bit more confusing than something like Bittrex is. So I know a lot of people might be saying to themselves now, okay, like Bittrex is delisting a cryptocurrency. Who gives a shit? We have decentralized exchanges. They're going to be the next big thing. Well, right now, for the most part, they're not. I still use, like I said, I still use EtherDelta because there are a lot of cryptocurrencies that are trading on EtherDelta that are not trading elsewhere. But it's still for the vast majority of kind of normal users or layman users of crypto, it's still a lot easier for them to use something like a Bittrex or a Poloniex or whatever the local centralized exchange might be for you from a like altcoin perspective. So when we're looking at this, that's just kind of one of my thoughts there as far as decentralized exchanges. I'm definitely a proponent of decentralized exchanges. I like them, but I don't think we're there yet from a usability perspective, which is why this is still big news when Bittrex delists a cryptocurrency. So there are a number that they delisted right now, or they're delisting within the next 10 days. The biggest one really being BTS, which is BitShares. So there is Darkrus, there is Draco DT token, which is a sub $1 million small cryptocurrency. So we don't really need to talk too much about Draco. There's also BTA, which is another cryptocurrency there. But if we're looking, the big news here really being the delistment of BitShares BTS. And you can see here, if I go over to CoinMarketCap and we'll scroll down to BTS, to BitShares, it's actually a top 40 cryptocurrency. At one point, it was in the top 20. And I'll click on this and we'll see over the past 24 hours is down. Granted, everything else in cryptocurrency is down pretty much as well, but down 20% and down almost 19% in comparison to Bitcoin. So it's certainly down quite a bit here. And BTS, BitShares, there is not any specific news yet, at least to my knowledge, as to why this is being delisted from Bittrex. But it's not good news, and the reason for that is kind of multifold. So number one, I think that Bittrex is, I've talked about it before and I'll talk about it again right now, but I think that in a lot of respects, centralized exchanges are going to be an easy place for regulatory agencies like the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission to really put the hammer down, drop the hammer on these cryptocurrencies. And with that being said, it's going to be an easy place for them to find ERC20 tokens and cryptocurrencies that may or may not be securities and reach out to the exchanges and say, hey, you need to delist these, or you're going to get fined. Or even if they want to be more aggressive, they just go out and straight up fine these exchanges or do something negative to these exchanges. So what these exchanges like Bittrex, like Poloniex, like centralized exchanges that are very exposed to the threat of regulatory agencies, I think they're going to start taking a very proactive role looking at the tokens that are traded on their exchanges to see if they can potentially represent securities or expose them to some modicum of risk from a regulatory agency. I don't know specifically if that is why BitShares was delisted. Some of the other ones were pretty small, so they just might not have been worth the trouble. Like if a cryptocurrency is less than $1 million in market cap, does a company like Bittrex want to expose themselves to that? Probably not, which is maybe part of the reason there. But BitShares is a pretty, we're talking about a $160 million market cap wise cryptocurrency. So it's a pretty big deal with $25 million in daily volume. So no small market cap there by any stretch. And Poloniex and Bittrex, there was actually $7 million in trading volume in the past 24 hours or so. So Bittrex isn't necessarily a small source of that volume. Now, as we're looking at this, it's interesting I went on to BitShares' Reddit, and people are not happy. People are freaking out, justifiably so. If you really believe in something and a centralized exchange is shutting that down, then it sucks for you because that's going to drop the crap out of your price. But a lot of people here saying, F centralized exchanges, it's bad news. Bittrex is afraid of competition, blah, blah, blah. Saying certain things about, just really kind of ripping Bittrex, the delisting rules as well. But, as you're looking at this, a lot of this, in my opinion, is going to come down to as well, are you holding the bag or are you not holding the bag? Obviously, there's probably a lot of, investors and bag holders and BitShares within the Reddit BitShares community. But, as you're looking at this, you want to, in my opinion, if you're holding Bittrex or if you're holding BitShares, maybe I don't really have any type of trading advice there or anything of that nature. But I think this is more of a lesson in the future as, what we want to do out of this, what we want to take out of this scenario, what we want to take and learn from this is why was BitShares delisted from Bittrex, and how can we avoid investing in other cryptocurrencies or anything like that can potentially get listed from something like a Bittrex or a Poloniex or a centralized exchange. Because as I've said before, decentralized exchanges will continue to grow in popularity, but they're not there yet from a usability perspective. So Bittrex, Poloniex, all these exchanges, these centralized exchanges are going to continue to be a big deal. So how can we learn why Bittrex removed BitShares from their exchange, and how can we avoid having that happen to us? Personally, I had no involvement within BitShares at all. No involvement there whatsoever. So I'm trying to use this as a learning experience, and I would suggest you do that as well, because I think this is only the beginning of, it's not the first time Bittrex has removed cryptocurrencies from their exchange, but I definitely don't think it's going to be the last time either. And I think as the threat of regulation continues to potentially have some level of a possibility there, you're going to see this happen more and more often with increasingly larger size cryptocurrencies. So I would definitely just recommend that, I'm going to do my due diligence as far as why this happened. It's not really, the information isn't out there yet, but as soon as that information is out there, I'll definitely look to provide you guys with that. And then how can you just make intelligent decisions based off of what happened to BitShares? Because, like I said, I don't think it's going to be the last time that a decent sized cryptocurrency is going to be delisted from a centralized exchange. So outside of that, that was really the main talking points that I wanted to discuss today. I would love your opinion on centralized exchanges and Bittrex and delisting of cryptocurrencies, as well as kind of where Bitcoin is headed in the marketplace right now. Are we going to be heading back up? Is this just a continued movement along that trend line with is it a continued movement up? Are we going to break to the upside? Do you feel like a bearish pattern is coming into place? Would love to hear your opinions on that as well. Now, if you are new to the channel, again, my name is Rob from Crypto Bobby. I try to bring things to you in the most honest, upfront, and non-BS manner as humanly possible. I know it's always tough in this space because things go up and go down and things get crazy, but I hope you enjoy this. If you are new, hit that subscribe button. If you've been here for a while, toss me a like. I would really, really appreciate that. You guys are so awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Have a good one. Peace.